The noose knot is very useful as a foundation for tying several other knots. Notice it's similar to a slip knot, but the loop is tied over the standing end, not over the bitter end. So here's how we form it. We form a loop first, then we pull the standing end through the loop, a bite of the standing end through the loop. That forms essentially an overhand knot over the standing portion of the line. Now what do we do with the bitter end? Well, this is where the fun comes. We have two possible knots that we can tie from this point. First, let's take a look at the slip knot itself. We see you have an overhand knot. On one side, we have two pieces of line coming up together in parallel. See the two green lines indicating the parallel sections of the loop in the slip knot crossing underneath the crossover of the slip knot. Turning the knot over, we see the closed side of the knot. Here we see a green line indicating the portion of the line crossing over the two parts of the loop, closing off the throat of the loop. Here we can see a comparison side by side of the open side and the closed side of the knot. When I tie my noose knot, I usually wind up with the open side up facing me. So that's why we'll show how the next step is done. Now what do we do with the bitter end? It can either go through the open side or the closed side of the loop. In the case that we're going to do for these knots, it's usually going to be the closed side. Here we insert the bitter end through, pulling on the standing end to bring a bite of the bitter end through the knot. When we're finished, we wind up with a bowline. Now let's see the real power of using the noose knot to form a bowline. With my left hand, I can form the complete noose knot without any intervention really from the right hand, by making a loop with my hand and then using my fingers to pull a bite in the standing end through, then I can use my other hand to insert the bitter end from the back side or the closed side of this noose knot, forming my bowline without any difficulty about worrying about which way the rabbit goes around the tree or which way the loop is formed to make the hole that the rabbit has to enter. Now I'll show you how you can tie the Ashley stopper knot starting in the same way. First, my one-handed technique for tying the noose knot. Again, I bring the bitter end in from the closed side, not from the open side, from the closed side. Instead of bringing a bite in though, this time I bring the bitter end completely through the loop that's formed with the noose knot. And then I dress down the knot by pulling on both the standing end and the bitter end to form a nice, neat, fat stopper knot called the Ashley stopper knot. Since the Ashley stopper knot is usually going to be used at the end of a line, now I'm going to retie it closer to the end of the line. Make a smaller slip knot. It may require both hands to help form that. And again, slip my bitter end through the closed side of the slip knot and dress the knot down for the final Ashley stopper knot. What happens if we make a mistake in putting our bitter end through the loop formed in the noose knot? We said before, in order to make a bowline, we want it to come in from the closed side, not the open side. So let's form our noose knot again. Now, as we said before, we would form a bowline. We'd bring this bitter end in through the closed side of the knot, this noose knot, and we'd pull on the standing end to form a bite in the bitter end to make our bowline. This time we're going to go the other way around. We're going to come in through the open end. And again, pull on our standing portion, create a bite in the bitter end and pull it through the knot and put tension on both the standing end, the bitter end, and its adjacent line. Now we have something that looks like a bowline, except that the tail is outside the loop of the bowline rather than inside. This is called a Dutch bowline or cowboy bowline. It can have some advantages, but it shouldn't be used in tying jib sheets because the bitter end or the tail could be caught more easily on the standing rigging.